Hello, hello. Today we are talking about how to feel worthy of love, especially if you've never been in a healthy relationship. So, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me. Don't forget to say hello in the comments. I'm so glad to have you here once again. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm Christina, love and relationship coach, and I help driven and ambitious women that have experienced toxic and abusive relationships heal, renew their trust and love so that they can open up their hearts, attract a healthy, genuine partner, and build a loving, lasting relationship. So, once again, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me. We're we're going deep today. We're talking about how to feel worthy of love, even if you've never had a healthy relationship. And the reality is that many women that feel unworthy of love, this feeling of unworthiness stems from childhood. So we're going to dive deep today and uncover some of the main reasons this unworthiness develops and how to shift out of it so that you can have a healthy relationship, so that you realize that you are worthy and deserving of a healthy, loving, lasting relationship. So once again, thank you for being here. I want to really talk about the top three things that I see happening in women's lives when there's this sense of unworthiness, these feelings of unworthiness of having a loving partner, of having a partner that caters to them, that wants to see them thrive, that's supportive, that's loving, that's planning a future with them. There's many women, especially if they've been in unhealthy relationships, that have this sense of unworthiness. But the reality is that this unworthiness starts much earlier in childhood. And the first reason why many women feel this feeling of unworthiness is because in their childhood, they were abandoned by a parent. Now, whether that was your mother, your father, it's more so impactful when it's the father, right? Because that's like the first love, right? Your father figure, and not so much the physical abandonment, right? Because there's many single moms out there doing it on their own, no father in the picture, but it's also the sense of having your parents around and them not having the time of day for you, the parents that aren't involved, right? So there's this sense of abandonment, of your parent not being there for you, this sense of, right, of not being chosen, right? Not feeling worthy, like why did they leave, or how come they're not there for me? So this abandonment, right, starts triggering, and in our undeveloped, right, our young undeveloped minds, you start making correlations. Well, I must not be worthy enough for them to go to my soccer game, or I must not be worthy enough, they must not care enough to be there for me. They left. So that's the first thing that I see really often and very common among my clients and the women that I've worked with that experience this sense of unworthiness is there's usually a parent. More often than not, it is the father, but there are cases where it's the parent. They might both be in the picture, but they have no time for them. They're not at their events. They're not someone that they can really count on, right? So there's this sense of abandonment, this sense of feeling unworthy of your parents' time, your parents' attention, your parents' energy. And that's one of the really big factors that comes into play when women start developing this sense of unworthiness. Now, the second one that I see very, very often, and more often than not, is the intimacy, right? That bond with the child. So the parent can be, right? Both parents can be in the picture, but intimacy, can you speak to them about anything, right? Many of us come from the olden days, right? The old school ways where, you couldn't speak out of term. You couldn't speak unless spoken to, where, children were seen but not heard. So there was that lack of intimacy, that lack of being able to trust, right? Who do you speak to? And I have to say, at least I know this from personal experience, many times when there has been like abuse in the childhood, this lack of being able to trust your parent to tell them or feel like you can without you getting in trouble, this one is huge. That intimacy piece of feeling safe enough, right? Feeling close enough to your parent to tell them. So I want to emphasize this because this is huge, right? It's like, can you have those conversations where you talk about your feelings, where you're being vulnerable, where you're being heard, where you're not dismissed, right? That intimate relationship with your parents, that is another one that plays a really big role in those feelings of unworthiness, right? You don't feel worthy of even being heard, of even being able to express your feelings, your thoughts. So that's the second one that really comes into play. And the third one is security, right? Not just feeling safe in your home, but are you provided for, right? Is there someone there that you can count on that's going to take care of you? So these three circumstances many times leads to feelings of unworthiness, right? When you don't feel secure in your own home, where you don't feel safe, where you don't feel like your home is your refuge, right? You have no one to turn to. There's no one who you can express yourself with. There's no one there, right, that you can turn to. And when these circumstances and these issues arise, as I said, many times in our childhood, we're too young to process it. So what happens is we start taking it as it's not them, right, that's doing anything wrong. It must be you. It must be you that's not worthy enough. It must be you that, if you're in a home that doesn't feel secure, doesn't feel safe, perhaps there's no stability, right? Perhaps there's no food on the table and you're unsure, right? You're not secure that you're going to be eating every day. So all these things we don't realize, right? Of course, parents are going through their own thing, and that's a whole separate live, right? That's a whole separate conversation. But the reality is that when we're so young, we can't put together that it's not us, right? We're just thinking it must be me. We internalize it, especially when unable to express it or really do anything about it, being so young. And what happens is you start to internalize those feelings of unworthiness, those feelings of not having your needs met. So that carries on into your adult relationships where, you might have someone who, if we're talking about, once again, the three main causes that I see of unworthiness, which is abandonment, intimacy, and security, right? So many times you take these into your relationships, and now you're in a relationship where perhaps, for the abandonment circumstance, they might be there present physically, but they're not there emotionally, right? They're not someone you can count on. They're not someone that you can have deep, vulnerable conversations with, who tries to understand, who is open, right, to having these kinds of conversations. It might be even very new to you to know to do that because it hasn't been the norm for you. It hasn't been the norm for you to feel safe in your own home. It hasn't been the norm for you to be open and vulnerable about your feelings because perhaps, right, no one wanted to hear them. It's you internalize these things, and as you get into these adult relationships, this is just the norm, right? This was the norm growing up. This is what normal adult relationships must be like. And many times these three circumstances, these three situations internalize to feeling unworthy, to feeling like, well, this is what it is. So when there is that fear of not being secure in your own home, for many it might feel common. It might be what they're used to, right? And so it is what it is. Especially for those of you that have continuous or repeating, right, cycles of unhealthy relationships. Many times it just feels so familiar. It feels like the norm. And many times this is what you're looking for, right? To feel comfort in some sort of sense, and there's comfort in the knowing, right? There's there's this fear of the unknown. So you find comfort in what you do know, even if it is, right, not being cared for, even if it is, right, being half-assed relationship. So many times these feelings of unworthiness, these feelings of not being able to have a healthy relationship stem from your childhood. So what do we do, right? What do we do now that we understand a little bit better where this might have started, right? And how it continues to develop and show up in our adult relationships. What do we do with that? Well, the truth is that even if, right, we didn't just uncover all these reasons why this is happening, it's important for you to realize that you are worthy of love. You deserve to have healthy relationships. And now it's up to you to build those healthy relationships, right? Our parents raised us already, whether it was right, whether it was right, wrong, whether they tried, they didn't, they did the best they can, they weren't even there. At the end of the day, there comes a point in our lives, right, where we have to take responsibility for ourselves, where we cannot continue to play the blame game because now it's on us, right? Now it's on you. So what do? You realize and you claim that you are worthy. You get to decide that. Not the other people in your life, not parents, not friends, not lovers, not potential partners. You get to decide if you're worthy or not. And how is that going to show up? It's going to show up with what you continue to allow in your love life, what you continue to allow in your relationship, especially for my ladies that are out there dating right now. How do you show yourself, right? How do you prove to yourself that you're worthy of love? By not settling for less, by not settling for that person that you can't have a vulnerable conversation with because they judge you, by not settling with that person that, walks out of the relationship when things get tough, right? Not allowing for those people to come in and out of your life, right? Really being able to recognize the differences in having a healthy relationship and being able to have a conversation and not being reactive, right? Because that's what happens many times too, because it becomes a pattern. We just automatically react. And many times we react out of fear, right? We react out of fear. We react out of not knowing what's going to come next. So I want to share this with you because this is super powerful for those of you ladies that are genuinely looking to build a healthy relationship with someone, with a genuine partner that is looking for the same thing you are, that's ready for love, that's ready, right, to do the self-development work, that's ready to really take responsibility for being emotionally aware and building that emotional intelligence together. And really, once again, building a healthy relationship, having these conversations, being open with one another. And you're gonna realize that as you start dating, right? If you don't jump ahead and really take the time to see if this person is aligned with the kind of relationship you want. Do they treat you how you want to be treated? Are they, right? Are they open and on the same path as you are? Do they have the same goals, the same values that you do? Do you guys have a shared purpose, right? Because to be honest, the relationships that thrive and last the longest are the ones that have a shared purpose, a shared goal, a shared meaning that they're striving to together. So I really wanted to share that. I know many of you ladies have this feeling of unworthiness because you've had these relationships that haven't worked out. You try to do better, but it seems like no matter what you do, you keep repeating the same thing, whether it's either with the same guy or guys that have the same kind of patterns as the old guys. The reality is that it starts with you. You have to put those boundaries. You have to set those standards for how you want to be treated, for how you want your relationship to look like. And that's exactly what I do when I work with my clients in my Rewrite Your Love Story program. We rewrite your love story. We take all of this and renew your trust in love and renew your trust in yourself so that you can stand by your boundaries. You can stand by those standards and never again settle for less. So if that's something that you'd like support with, drop me a comment below. I'd love to support you in this. And remember to choose you, choose love, stay blessed, and I will see you soon.